It seems every year goes by and we always find something that becomes more interesting or challenging to us all the time. And this particular time will be the dryness or the drought that we are presently in. I know many of the pastors in the neighborhood in the last year got pushed pretty hard in the fall. The fall was a nice fall. People got a lot of stuff done in the field. And with that being said, some cow herds got moved home a little bit later than maybe normal. And for those that did get home, moved home a little earlier, that forage supply is also getting low. So it's going to be a challenging year on how, what, where, when, and why are we going to do something that we do. I will tell you this, that I'm going to read an article to you here in a little bit, but this has actually got some good things about it, if there's such a good thing about a drought and needing to do the challenges of your herd health. It becomes a great opportunity to call out those cows that aren't so nice in the spring. Yeah, they may give you one of the best calves every fall, but your health comes into play through this too. So it'd be a good time to look at that avenue. You always have these cows that maybe they're 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and as they go, their calf growth and weight and performance has been severely damaged. Good time to get rid of that cow. Maybe one to slough the calf this spring, one of your best cows. You know what? She's not making you any money. Good time to get rid of her. Now, you're likely going to hear even more about this when I read the article, but this is a good opportunity to make that culling choice for your cow herd. So with that being said, I'm going to read this article, and it talks about strategic culling vital during the drought period. Weather forecasts predict worsening drought conditions in the northern Great Plains for the 2021 growing season. Many cattle operations will find themselves without enough forage and feedstuffs to maintain their current herd size. Unfortunately, often decisions are made more with emotion than logic during stressful times, says Lisa Peterson, who is the extension livestock specialist at the Central Grassland Research Extension Center. Producers have several strategies to maintain herds with limited feed sources, including developing a culling plan. Operations that are more resilient to drought generally have a strong, well-developed culling strategy in place. Culling parameters should remove cattle that do not help the farm or ranch meet its goals. A good question to ask before developing a culling plan is, what are your goals? What culling criteria will help my operation and cattle achieve the goals that we're trying to reach? And of course, all of you are different. You can be talking to your neighbors, but what my goal might be and what your goal might be may not be the same. A good example of that is our calving season. Some of us like to calve early and get our calving done before the spring work season comes. Others like to put them out on grass and let them calve, hopefully get away from some of the disease issues that comes along, like scours. So here are some tips to consider when deciding which cow or cattle you want to cull. As I mentioned earlier, if you got a cow out there with poor disposition, it can be dangerous to humans, other cattle and other livestock. They can damage equipment and facilities. They are less productive and profitable in the feed yard and on the rail. Another one is these open or dry cows. If every year we get cattle producers that say, yeah, we didn't lose any, but at the end of the year, there's always that percentage, 1, 2, 3, 4%, that lost their calf for different reasons. They are just as well be put in a slaughter plant rather than keeping them around for a full season and waiting for next year for a calf. We don't have that much grass this year to keep that cow going. Old cows, and of course, this is a tough one because that old girl's been giving calf for how long, and now we got to get rid of her? That doesn't make any sense. Well, it does make sense. We need to keep that herd updated, just like everything we do in life. We're always looking for that something that's a little bit better. And yes, I'll never take anything away from a good cow and what she's done for you. But an old cow goes downhill in a hurry, and pretty soon you're going to end up with nothing. And typically, them older cows, they start really suffering on short grasses. And with that being said, thin cows, The fact that cows with a body condition score of at least 5 at calving are more likely to breed back in an established breeding season is well documented through many research articles. Meaning, get them cows in good shape and keep them in good shape during that season, and they'll be in a more timely fashion. With that being said, you can also talk about cows that are thin and taking greater nutritional resources to cycle and breed back. During times of forage shortages, these cows may not regain condition adequate enough to rebreed. Cows that calf later in the calving season, everybody's always got that percentage, 5-10%. We calf in that the first trimester and the second trimester. When it gets to the third, it's time to let them go. There are things going on that we don't always understand about those cows. Not only that, but when we calf later and we have a calving season where 75-80% of the calves are born in that first cycle, those calves coming in will probably weigh 50 to 100 pounds more than the other. So was that cow really worth keeping and having that happen? Check the cows with bad udders. If you got a cow with one udder, quarter of her udder that is not so good or whatever, another bad case to get rid of. Some cows have some rather large bags and hard for the calves to get started, and you need to help them. So just another one of those things to consider. Cattle with structured feet that don't meet the needs of what you're doing. And of course, cattle with structure typically are more prone to lameness. They are less productive and may not be able to travel longer distances for feed and water. Additionally, feed issues are genetic in nature and can show up in the calves throughout that cycle. And then we always have some that are poor performers. Every year we got that cow, I can't get rid of her. Look at the calf I get every year out of her, and she's thin and not requiring much feed. Well, unfortunately, they do use quite a bit of feed, and they just don't have that ability to get that conditioning put on them. So another one too that we want to talk about quickly, and that's fence crawlers. Just cows that are just always creating some issue for you. Good time to get rid of them so we can manage our pastures more properly. Once your criteria has been established, go through the records and make a list of those calls and take care this time of year. And not only that, but we're getting into the season where the market for slaughter cows is actually coming up a little bit and being pretty good. We're getting into that hamburger market. And one last thing before I get off here is always think about your bulls as well. If you got a bull that maybe you got one that throws a little bit bigger calf, a little bit harder calving bull, or you got one that just always seems to struggle with his feet, always doing some trimming and those kinds of things, it's a good time to get rid of them kind of guys too. So as you can see, we got a lot of decisions to make in the next little bit, and this would be a great time to do it with the dry conditions that we have in our pastures being pretty well cut off like they have been.